Welcome back, everyone. So this is a podcast that's going to benefit everybody watching this. Whether you're just an average person who might get in a car accident, whether you're an athlete, a football player, boxer, soccer player, tennis player, whoever you are, this podcast is something that will benefit your life greatly. I'm most excited about this one, probably more excited than I've ever been. So my guest today is actually the expert on the subject. Sir, can you please introduce yourself to the people?
Hello, my name is Robert Baric. So I've been in healthcare for over 30 years and really have taken a learning towards how brain metabolism, because I am a problem-oriented provider. And what does that mean? That means that when somebody has a symptom, why is that symptom? See many concussions, any type of traumatic brain injuries, and all the residuals that result of that.
Yeah, it's fascinating how there was that movie with Will Smith, Concussion, and that brought everything to life and kind of forced the NFL to take some drastic changes to what they do. And one thing we hear about a lot is something called TBI, traumatic brain injury. And it's become something you hear it all the time in the media. When I was a kid, it's funny, they even changed how they tackle. When I was a kid, you were taught to hit with your head. Lead with your helmet. I got my helmet from high school back here. You can tell all they called them stick marks, all the different colors from me hitting people with my head. And now they actually teach kids better. You're still two large individuals running really fast head first at each other. There's going to be issues. But what is traumatic brain injury or TBI?
So, Mark, I have really changed that acronym, because that abbreviation, the abbreviation TBI is not, in my world, traumatic brain injury. It's a traumatic body injury. And the research is so replete with, when you get a head bump, think of what your brain controls, everything. So there is research showing that you get a head injury, it affects your testosterone production. It affects your gut microbiome. It affects your cardiac output. It affects your pituitary gland, which affects bone density and joint health and muscle building. It affects, I want to go through this whole list, and it's like, holy heck. It affects, of course, cognitive, depression, anxiety, blah, blah, blah. It affects sleep. It affects your blood-brain barrier. So TBI, which we've always known abbreviation, traumatic brain injury, it's not. It's a traumatic body injury. And it's all through the literature, but no one's reading it. And this kind of pushed me, because patients would come in and say, oh, I've been on heart meds for 2 years. And I said, well, tell me about before that. And they're like, or I've gotten out of the point where they'd say, I've had heart issues for the last 2 years. And I'd say, tell me about your concussion in 2020. And they're looking at me like, I didn't have one. Oh, no, I didn't have one. But I had a car accident. And I said, you had a concussion. So that really has opened me to jump on PubMed and say TBI, heart issues. It affects your heart output. I ended up writing a small book on Amazon. It hit Amazon bestseller. It has 123 references. The TBI is traumatic body injury, but nobody looks at that. Everybody looks at, oh, I have a headache and I have that. And that's all real. It's the long-term residuals that are the nightmares that's what you got to address. You got to put the fire out while it's little.
Is there such thing as grades of concussion, or is a concussion a concussion? Like, we used to hear the term, it's a minor concussion or it's a severe concussion. Is a concussion just a concussion, or are there different degrees of damage done via concussion?
Okay, two great questions. First of all, I'm going to categorize concussion in two big categories. Your brain is a bucket. There is a thing called a subdural hematoma, where you basically have a swelling and ruptures of arteries. That's the big concussion. Oh crap, emergency room. They have to take the pressure out. Otherwise, you go home, you take a nap, and you don't wake up. The other, and you're using another phrase, a concussion. I tell people it's not a concussion. It's your 25th concussion. Why? Well, 80% of the kids before age 1 fall on their head per the CDC status. You remember 3 years old when you and your brother were playing in the backyard and you bumped heads and you saw stars? And then number 7, when you fell off the swing set, and 8 years old when you fell off your bike, and 13 years old when you did something else stupid, and 18, and And now this is your 23rd and 24th concussion. Yeah, maybe you're not blacked out and you can't see things, but that trauma is cumulative. And it's not, yes, those are concussions, but really it's head injuries. It's head bumps. It's that lineman hits when you're hit full practice, they don't get a concussion that they're moseying or, wandering around the field staggering, but every time you hit that head, there's trauma. So that's the key. The key is what's your cumulative concussion number?
That's fascinating. I was just watching my son play middle school football yesterday, and I mean, he's in the middle, like he's a nose guard and a center. So he's going head on with someone every play, whether you're getting hit from the side, down blocked, straight blocked, pull blocked, doesn't matter. Someone's hitting your head. So every single play, 30, 40, 50 plays a game, he's getting some form of head trauma, is what you're saying.
Yep. Okay, correct. In a game, head on head, and maybe you're not ramming like two bulls, two male rams on the mountains, but you're still hitting your head. You're hitting your head a good 30 times, helmet on helmet. And it's not spearing. It's just, I'm pushing against you and you're pushing against me. Or is it, I'm getting pushed into the ground, or somebody's falling on top of me. But that might be 20 to 30 micro traumas in a game. Wow. Cumulative, practice after practice, game after game, life after life.
And then you look at the number one, I believe, sport for concussion occurrences, which is boxing. Every time you get punched in the face, I boxed for 7 years, and there you get hit, and it's not technically a concussion. You'll pass the concussion protocol, and that's something I want to get into as well. But when you get hit and you don't know where you are, I don't think that's a good thing. Like, I don't think that's good at all. But so in sports, they've put a huge emphasis, especially NAYS, which is one of the youth coaching organizations. One of the main things they do is concussion protocol, concussion training. What is your opinion of the current concussion protocol for return to play or to stay in play?
Okay, I'm going to answer that in a quick second, but I think there's a data point that really only 11% of concussions occur in sport.
Wow.
89% are in your garage, in your bedroom, in your bathroom. 89%. So
I never knew that. Wow.
It's giant. That's a giant number. And I slipped in the bathroom, or how many times have you gone in the kitchen and bent over and stood up into a door? Not 1,000.
Every day.
Every day. What I mean? It happens. That's the joy. Okay. So a current concussion protocol. The current concussion protocol is what we call the Amsterdam working documents. This is where they get all the smartest people in the world and they say, let's chat about this. Nobody's following it. Nobody's even following the 4-year prior one, Berlin working documents. And I mean, I was just in Chicago lecturing with a major group. They brought me in, and they're like, what the heck are you talking about? And then I'm bringing these things up. I'm on my laptop and they're like, oh my gosh. And there's prior professional athletes in there, and they're like, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know any of this. So you ask a simple question. There is technology coming out that can give us a better understanding. But for me to move my finger and say, hey, follow your eyes, up, down, this, that, close your eyes, those are they're the best we have on the field. And there's SCAT scores and all these other things. But it's so primitive because we can't get a good in to the most complex computer in the entire world ever created, called your brain. So there is some better technologies, the quote little booth on the sidelines for NFL. But I mean, there's technologies coming out. One of them is called Sway. Sway is you're using one of the best processor devices, your phone, and you're seeing how you move when your eyes are closed or your eyes are open. So you ask a simple question. The protocols on the sidelines are improving, but extremely lacking still.
Yeah, and they also have a baseline they do at the beginning of the year for concussions. And what they'll do, and I'm not saying I know kids who do this, but look, athletes just want to play.
Yeah.
And I get it. I played through concussions. I was like, no, I'm fine. The next day, I'm like, where am I? Can't look at light. And so they will literally fudge or underperform on their baseline test.
Yeah.
So that way, when they do, and wrestlers do this. I know for a fact, I know a lot of people do this because they know if you have a bad baseline, then on your test, you're going to do much. Yeah, it's literally, it's like in ingredients, we have lab tests where you have the sample, and then you have the actual standard.
Sure.
So the standard is off. So
they
then
throw
the sample, yeah. So they're throwing the fight, and it's fascinating how people do that. And aside from living in a bubble, telling your kids not to play sports, because I mean, even baseball. My nephew plays D1 baseball. He's getting hit in the head. He's a catcher. How many balls he's taken to the face mask, I couldn't count. So aside from living in a bubble and sheltering yourself, what do we do? Like as parents, as individuals, because our brains are our most important thing. Because like you said, it runs everything. What can you do?
So you go back to the sideline. Where technology is going to be at is you're going to put on a Google or a Facebook Oculus headset, and I can get, if I'm looking at an individual's eyes, I'm going to see things called saccades or pursuits. Those are all going to be, but when I'm using a technology like Right Eye or something, you can actually see how your eyes track. And that is really the best way to get an assessment pre-post, because you can't throw that. You can't throw that. So you asked, what do you do? I'm sorry, go back. Your question is what do you do because your kids want to be kids, and kids want to play, and kids want to do athletics and stuff like that.
And so you think soccer. Well, my daughter, her junior year, backtracking, backpedaling, someone hits her, head hits the ground, concussion. And that's something I want to get back to as well, because it seems like once you get one concussion, just headering the ball out of the air would make you dizzy. And that's why I'm kind of glad she's not playing anymore. But kids are going to play. And even if they don't play, hopefully they're not just playing video games. They're going to do something that's going to, risk trauma. Even just walking is a trauma risk. So going to that, like looking at the kids and what they do, like I'm at a loss as a parent of what to do to maintain my kids' health. I hopefully you see where I'm getting here. There's no sport that is completely trauma-free. Maybe chess, but even then it's
so in personal, I said kids, I have kids, no football, swimming. My daughter's swimmers get concussions in swimming. And you're like, freaking really? You know why? Because they're swimming like this, and they veer and they go head on head, or they hit walls. And you're thinking, son of a gun. So you ask a great question. And this is my big push that lasts 4.5 years. I had the enlightenment is to create basically a fire extinguisher for the brain, a backup generator for the brain. And that is how kind of we live back to you, because there's 3 main systems that fail in a concussion. And Dr. Bickman did an amazing job at explaining that the brain can either run on glucose or ketones. And again, many of your people already know this, but there's many that don't. And glucose is the preferred system. And I use the example that your power company is the preferred system, but you need that backup generator. And you don't need to run on it all the time. But man, when you need it, you want it to kick in. So that is, again, I am a huge fan of your company because you have the best exogenous ketones to get through the blood-brain barrier. So I don't need to do this I don't need to have the body run on this all the time. But for that critical 14 days post-head injury, 100%, that is one of the main systems that fail, the energy system. The second system that fails is the drains. And we all heard in our body, there's called the lymphatic system. Mm-hmm. But in the brain, out of the University of Rochester, there's glial cells, and the researcher that's really coined this is the glymphatic system. And the glymphatic systems fail. The trash people go on strike. So now all these toxins build up. The brain's making more toxins because I have an acute some type of a head bump. I'm running out of energy. I'm not taking the trash out. And that is the whole purpose of kind of, if we can protect the brain during that initial 14-day window where all heck is breaking loose, your power is out to your house, and everything's going crazy, and we can support that exogenously, meaning through the mouth, then the residuals can be much less. And again, this is where your exogenous ketones are genius, because not only do we need exogenous ketones, we need to get them through the blood-brain barrier, which is a son of a gun. I mean, that's why they can't treat chemo. They can't treat brain cancer with chemo, because you can't get through the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
So your exogenous ketones are a critical one leg of the three-legged stool to get that person back, so we don't have that residuals. I mean, it's the fire extinguisher. I look at a concussion 911 as the fire extinguisher for your brain. Heaven forbid you get a little fire in your kitchen, you put your fire extinguisher out, pull your fire extinguisher, put it out, you got a little mess. I can deal with that. But if it keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, and now it's going through your roof, okay, now the firemen come, 2 hours later or an hour later, but I got a hole in my roof. Well, what happens in our life if that happens? You move out. But in the real world, you can't move out of your body. So you have these residuals the rest of your life.
So what if, let's say, you don't treat a concussion? Like, obviously right now, I take a lot of BHBs, 10 to 20 grams a day, sometimes more if I'm drinking energy drinks with them in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got that going on. But let's say, and I want to get back to, prevention and also what to do after the fact. I'd love again, this is a very selfish podcast. I got a state placer, high school wrestler, a 2-time state champ,
Yep.
wrestler and football player, my 12-year-old. So they're in very concussed sports. Like my son's been, knocked heads. When you're going for a shot, they drop down, you knock their shoulder with your head. You're constantly getting head trauma. And those little ear guards don't do anything, and they never wear them when they don't have to, because they want cauliflower ear for some reason, because they think it makes them look tough. but it's one of those where, let's say you're someone like me who's had at least five concussions that I felt like didn't know where I was, that were diagnosed, probably through boxing, football, everything else, hundreds. What does someone like me do after years of brain trauma without ever, because everybody here, a lot of people here are former athletes. They played football or wrestling. A lot of older guys in their 25 to, I think 50 is my main demo. Let's say you're like us and you're like, I might have knocked my brain a little bit. What do we do now?
So you have, you ask a simple question, but let's run kind of each tree. Number one is you have to jump all over a next head bump. And is that in your auto or car or wherever in life, in your shower? So if you get that, you need to take something for that 10 to 14 day window. Number two is if you're going into high risk events, you can you're already proactively taking BHBs, and that's one critical leg of the stool. But I need to get those lymphatics flowing too, and I need to keep them flowing. I need to keep the drains working. And then number three is I need to get the right anti-inflammatories that can get into that brain, because a little bit of inflammation post head bump is good, but too much is bad. Mm-hmm. So we want to get a little bit of inflammation. We want to get the body to kick into a little bit of a healing, but we can't have a runaway train. So you asked two simple questions. In the acute phase, you got to be consuming the high BHB products. And again, that's why I made that concussion 911, because we're able to saturate the brain enough to provide that energy. So now you raise the question of what do you do in your current state? And that's a whole conversation in itself. And going back to this guy, Perlmutter, who's a neurologist, he says, look, if you're not addressing dementia, middle age, at every age, you're going to, by the time you get it, it's too late. So there is a lot of stuff that can be done to basically recalibrate and clean out some of the damage. Are you going to clean all the damage out? Heck no. But there's a lot of stuff that you can do with eye movements, with saccades, with taking care of your cervical spine, with all of these things that are going to they're going to try to reduce the likelihood or the symptoms secondary to your prior traumas. So you can actively do stuff with the right providers, but definitely when you get one, you have to be jumping all over it nutritionally during that critical window.
So would there be a protocol for, let's say, daily? Let's say we're not going into high risk. We're just living life. Would there be a daily supplement protocol that you would advise to someone, just a normal dude, a normal girl, whatever, to help with the brain? Is there some sort of, or diet? Like what, let's go into this. Like what can we do nutritionally and supplementally to help the brain every day? And just, as you said, alongside the cervical spine, alongside the eye movements, what can they do on that note?
Okay. So I'm going to look, and I basically look at what's the risk factor. If you've had no known concussions, everybody needs to take vitamin D and fish oil and some level of exogenous ketones. Okay. If I have a history of 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 concussions, my dosages have to go higher, because what it comes out today in the Wall Street Journal that like 90+% of all calories are eating processed foods. What does that mean? We don't have any essential fatty acids. We're all inflamed. Our arachidonic to eicosapentaenoic acid ratios are horrible, right? Our friability is basically how squishy is the cell? Is the cell squishy, or is it kind of like that you're out hiking and you pick up that Mountain Dew bottle that's been there for 20 years and it just cracks in your hand, right? I don't want litter, I'm picking it up. Heck, I now got 5 pieces. So your, vitamin D, fish oil, exogenous ketones, all of those are going to help your cells have a high percentage of protective nutrients on the scene and saturated.
What would the dosages of those be? Because that's the question we're going to get. Like, cool. Like, because you get all kinds of ranges from, vitamin D especially. You'll see it, the RDA, and then you'll see people say, oh, take 5,000 IUs, 10,000 IUs, 2,500 IUs. How much BHB do I take? How much? So there's a lot of variables. I know that obviously the more trauma, like you said, the more you have to pay attention. But what would be the dose ranges for those?
Okay, so those are great questions. And sadly, I'm going to give you a squishy answer, because I draw blood work. And so the LabCorp range for vitamin D is 30 to 100. And 100 is no magic, oh my gosh, if I go 101, my head's going to pop off. They had to pick a top number. I like to keep my people between 60 to 100. And I'm in North Carolina, and we're in August. Go outside, God's given it to you. But come Labor Day, you ain't getting any. And come from Labor Day to Memorial Day, you're really not getting any. So depending on the form, some people need 5,000, 10,000 units of vitamin D K2 until it gets into that range. Fish oil, I don't think fish oil pills work. And the reason why is I tell people that's great, but for me to see a change in your blood work, you need to take 20 of those fish oil pills a day. And they go, huh? Yeah, that's a meal. So I use the raw liquid. So I'm using a tablespoon of high quality, molecularly distilled fish oil. And again, that goes back to the blood work. When you check the AA, or arachidonic to EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid ratios, you want to be 6 to 1, 5 to 1, blah, 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 blah. I have people that are 100 to 1. So they're so far, but they're eating all processed foods. It goes back to because of their processed foods. So they have no essential fatty acids. So their cells are just, they get the slightest head bump and they're inflamed. They have no natural anti-inflammatories. And that is where and going back to now the exogenous ketones, we dose ours by weight. So like a packet, a packet is this. Boom.
Yep. I have one in my cupboard. Yep.
Right. So you and I are going to be taking three times a day of enough. And as you know, your body uses it. So for me to take it, hey, I took it in the morning. Well, that's great. But you're probably going to last between, you probably know more than I do, but 8-ish hours, 10 hours.
The L acid has a longer half-life, but look, the bioidentical is the D acid, or I'm sorry, the D, BHB acid. I'm thinking for some reason ingredient. Yeah. So you're looking around that range. Yeah. That's why, I like to take a bolus dose pre-workout, like of 5 to 10 grams. Then I'll take another 5 grams later in the day. Then about, 3 to 5 grams later in the day, because of its beneficial effects on sleep quality. So that's usually how I dose it. Again, I'm a bigger guy, a bigger dose guy, especially with, what I do and high stress. And I also don't sleep enough. So I do think you're looking at, I like to see 2 to 3 doses a day. I agree with you on that 100%. You're the expert, but apparently I was doing something okay.
No, 100%. Cause we have to kind of keep that generator working the whole time.
Yep.
So we're pushing in our data, it's 3 doses, and the quantity is determined by that 50-pound kid is very different than that 250-pound kid.
Yeah.
250-pound guy. So you got to saturate, you got to give enough to make a difference. And
you watch eighth grade football, man. There's some 250 pounders on that field these days.
They're huge. So you have to go by mass.
Yeah.
You have to go by mass, and it's not a one size fits all. And that is where, we've had to, with our expert teams, we had to go and say, we don't want to make people toxic, but we need to get a therapeutic dose amount that's actually going to do something. And the results, the concussion people, sadly, that are using this, because this just came out. We were 4.5 years in development and then a year in tasting, which drive me nuts. But
that's always fun.
They're like, if I don't take this, I can't function. And these are high functioning individuals, and high functioning get a head bump, boom, they can't function anymore. And they take it like, wow, my lights are on. And so sadly, you're asking a very simple question. It goes by size and it goes by frequency.
Yeah. And honestly, from what I see, there's no really up to a point. Obviously you can overdose on water. There's no real overdose range. So it's not like you're taking Tylenol and your liver's going to explode.
Right.
It's a completely different thing. And I want to go to another ingredient that's gotten a lot of, and I believe you include it, and that's creatine. It's gotten a lot of press on its effects on, the brain and cognition. Would creatine play a role in this?
So sadly, the answer is yes, it does. And sadly, we have to pull out creatine. And even though it's in small doses, we have to pull it out because it's our understanding from some very high level coaches that they can't give creatine to their players.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid because it's okay for the Olympians, but it's not okay for the NCAA.
They're still stuck in that creatine as a steroid media smear mindset from the 1990s. And it's sad to see because now you're seeing creatine have another spike in sales. Like it's to the point where Alchem, who makes Creapure, and they have another one out. It's called Creavital. That's their other one. That's actually better than Creapure because it's a finer mesh. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. My opinion is it's the same thing, but it's a finer mesh. So if anybody has any issues with, very few people have this, but intolerances with creatine due to the mesh side and digestibility, it's a smaller mesh. Bottom line is they just chop it up finer. But they're not taking on new customers. They can't. Their plants they're 3 years to get a new plant online. Because you got Huberman, Dr. Peter Attia, Rhonda Patrick, all talking about creatine. So now they're saying, oh, you need 20 grams a day for cognition. And then they're saying there's that new study that came out on sleep deprivation on creatine, where you take 30 grams or 25 to 30 grams, I think was the range, and it knocks out most of the effects of sleep deprivation. So and again, I'm not telling people to break the rules, but I think everybody should take creatine. There's very few populations. It'd be such a minuscule amount. Like creatine should be in everyone's daily stack.
And here's the government's perspective. You have one idiot somewhere doing something stupid, and then he's on the front page of the paper because he was taking 10 pounds of creatine a day. And it's like, it goes to that colloidal silver thing, or if you've ever heard of Papa Smurf.
Yeah.
This guy's like drinking and he turns himself blue. Well, I can't protect from stupidity.
Yeah.
The colloidal silver is an amazing thing. And silver, it's not a daily consumable, but I guess the gist is you can't protect stupidity. And when you can buy it over the counter, you're going to have some ding dong that's going to take, 10,000 more than they should. And they kill themselves. So creatine, good. And there's small doses. And our art is we had to be hyper efficient. So we needed to get enough creatine in here to get a therapeutic benefit. And I'd love to add more, but now it's just there's too much ingredient there. Mm-hmm. So the brain goes into this crazy, mode it for that 14 days and creatine, and we're going to have to create a product. Our current product has creatine in it. And coaches says, I can't give this to my players because there's creatine in it. And But the player can go buy it and take it. And it doesn't test them positive on a blood test. So it's like, what? Don't use logic. Again, never use logic.
No, dealing with WADA, NCAA over the years, I've lost all faith in humanity. But here we are. And we're just trying to do best by what's best for the athlete, what's best for the kid, what's best for the person. How do we make the world a healthier, more highly functioning place? And the brain is where it starts. I love the fact that we've put such an emphasis on cognitive performance. And what you're bringing to light is something that we need to bring to light is that, look, there are these inflammatory issues, these TBIs, which are traumatic body traumas that happen. So now I've been doing some research on, pre-activity, basically getting your body ready for potential issues. Like, for example, my son, before the game, 10 grams of BHB, I'm like, there you go. Before practice, 5 to 10 grams every morning, 5 grams in his morning shake. So when you're looking at, and they also take creatine. So when you're looking at getting ready for performance, let's say a lot of people who watch my stuff are fathers, because a lot of people started following me back in early 2010s. So they've gotten old and they've had kids now. So they're there. So if you have a child, let's say pre-activity, what would you do?
And that is where we're having a lot of activity in two separate parts. Number one is, hey, I have a concussion, I need help. Boom. The second is you hit it right on the head. We have people ordering, I need 500 of these. And why do you need 500? Well, we're giving our child basically, instead of, so say for instance, I'm 200 pounds, I would take 3 sticks 3 times a day. We're giving him 1 to 3 sticks pre-event. Nice. So they're giving pre-event. Now they want it in bulk because it's a lot more economical, right? I want to go to Costco and buy 30 rolls of paper towel instead of 1. Yeah. So they're buying it in bulk. And it's the, hey, you're going out on a hot day and we're having a tough practice. Everybody throw one of these in your shake with your electrolytes and your other stuff, and you're protecting your brain. And the joy of it, it's natural and the brain likes it. And, but it's putting your brain in a much safer metabolic state. And I don't want to say if the head bump occurs, it's when the head bump occurs.
Mm-hmm. They're occurring. If you're playing football, you're getting bumps. Like it again. It was because this is my first year not coaching, because he's going middle school. I was coaching the little league football, whatever you call it. It used to be called Pop Warner. Now it's different leagues because money. And anyway, so my first year not coaching, and so I volunteered for Chain Gang, sitting there with the first down marker like a boss, and watching it up close and hearing, bam, like every single play, at least 4 guys are getting popped.
Yep.
And this is, again, last year, it was a level down. Like, league football is very competitive, but even if you make it to state level, which they are in, but just yesterday, you got kids who are, my son hasn't hit puberty yet, 12 years old. There's kids on the field with goatees.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm watching him compete with them, and I'm like, this is amazing. But the problem is I know too much. Right. Like, I've learned too much about what happens when you bonk heads. And we had 3 kids go down with injuries, 1 tore an ACL. And I'm like, well, that's bad. But every single play, those kids are getting head trauma. And that's why I think this focus on it is so important, because how much better of a functioning adult will they be if they're able to mitigate some of these effects of just playing sports and being a kid?
So as the parent, as you hit it right on the head, I don't want the kid playing Minecraft all day long. I want the kid out running around. But when there's high risk events, absolutely. As a parent, they're taking it beforehand. They're taking a smaller dose beforehand. And again, that's same with adults. Adults, if we're going out and we're playing adult soccer, or we're doing any high risk sports or high risk events, we're doing, it just protects your brain. So you really hit the next topic is the psychological negative effects of TBIs. Is that anxiety, depression, attention? All of those are documented. And I mean, sadly, what's happening? Well, New York City happened this, and this happened here. And we've seen, and you see these NFL players that they're high profile, but they go bonkers. Oh, look at that idiot. Well, you know what? That idiot wasn't an idiot 20 head bumps ago.
Yeah, but Junior Seau is the most famous case, right?
Like, I mean, but Antonio Brown ain't far behind.
Yeah, he's kind of fallen. You need to get in touch with that guy. But he posts some amazing things on X, though. He's
right. But
TBI is creating entertainment. Yeah,
correct. But now let's jump to this. What about the military? And the military is, I mean, every time I pull that big howitzer and go kaboom, that's not a physical hit, but it's still a concussion. It's still a head trauma. And so I'm chatting with an individual who are training basically. These are in the government agents that go overseas, and they've passed all the academic tests, and now they're in the physical training, the hand-to-hand, kind of personal safety, and they get a head bump and they get kicked out. And they're like, we've spent so much money training this individual to this point, and they get a head bump and it goes back to zero and they got to start over. So again, it's 100% sports. But if you're in a high need, you need, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of take a small dose proactively prior to your event training, but I don't want the body to rely on that. So I don't think it's best that we take it every day, because I want the body to say, oh, this is helpful. I don't think anything good is every day. So to kind of give the brain rests on various ingredients. But we get all these psychological hangovers from, boy, I have anxiety. Boy, I have depression. Boy, I have, all these brain challenges. Oh, we have a medication for that, but nobody's fixing anything.
Yeah. Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
A Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's the heart thing. It's if you look at if you're reading the book, the cardiac results as far as how the heart changes negatively post-traumatic body injury, you're saying, holy heck. Well, we have a medication for that, but why don't we just not get here?
Yeah.
Why don't we just not get here?
It's all preventative. It really is a lot of what we could do, and then doing the right thing after it happens.
Correct.
And I think we've learned a lot. Yeah, we've learned a lot. You talked about inflammation when and they still do it, because obviously nobody reads studies, but ice, you get an injury, you ice it. And then we find out, wait a second, we shouldn't ice injuries because we want that inflammation. And what we want to do is push the inflammation through and have it cycle. But icing actually kind of stops the recovery in its process. So we've been, we've learned a lot. And icing, even Dr. Merkin, and actually, I don't know if you know him, a good friend of mine, Dr. Gary Reinl. He's done all this stuff with stim units. He has something called the Marc Pro, and it's basically an advanced stim unit where baseball teams use that instead of icing now. They're no longer putting the ice on the shoulder. You'll see them in the dugout with the stim unit on. So it's really fascinating how we've learned a lot. I think we've learned a lot about concussions, and I think the movie with Will Smith kind of brought it to the forefront where the NFL had to do something. And I actually met with a couple NFL teams over the past few weeks, and they're very proactive in getting into this because, and I'm just spitballing. For if it's, and this is just a hypothesis, like how fast can we get this player better so he's back on the field? Because every game 100%. They miss, every practice they miss, that's a guy they're investing $30 million into. So they're like, okay, how fast can we get him back from brain injury?
Okay, so let's look. I mean, the defensive ends right now are in the hot market, and they're in the $30 million. And what is a season? 16 games? That's $2 million a game. You know, it's $2 million a game. Do I really want him out for 4 weeks when I could have them out for 1 and have them better cerebrally than off than 4 weeks? So if I could proactively get in and give this guy this fire extinguisher, get him the right nutritional stuff, and actually, better yet, proactively give him something before he goes out into those high-risk events, he may never get that injury. Or if he gets it, the damage will be less. So, you know, our frustration is we go in, when I'm talking with providers, I get the little bit of, well, that's not the way my daddy did it. And it's like, what was the last thing you've read?
There's well, I mean, in the 1900s we treated mental issues with frontal lobotomies. So obviously we're not doing what your daddy did because we've learned a lot. Like at the time, they're like, oh, if we take out the frontal lobe, then they're not going to have issues. Okay, and that's why with people, the term, and I talked to Dr. Ben Bickman. We had a great podcast on this. The term trust the science at the given time. But the whole point of science is to question your hypothesis, to question the science, try to disprove a theory. And that's when, again, I'm not taking a stance. When those words came out, trust the science.
Run.
I was like, okay, wait a second. You got me. You had me before that.
Yeah, run.
But now, because science evolves, and those of us in athletic training and in anything to do with sport, I mean, training has remained decently consistent, but the way we deal with injuries, from icing to brain trauma to even caring about concussions to hitting with our heads, you know, those have all changed. So, you know, science it advances, and we see that with ingredients. We see that with so many things.
And again, on that same thing of trust the science, I want to throw up at number one. And number two, when I squash contradictory discussion on the topic, and when that occurs, I mean, every hair on my back is tingling saying, this is not. Because again, when I get into conversations, I'll stay quiet and then I'll start asking questions. And most of the time, they're standing in their underwear in about 2 minutes. And it's like, and so what about this? And how are you going to affect that? And did you read this study that was published in 24? And this one's published in 25. Are you reading this one that was published in 1975? Right? Again, we fight. It is insane. Again, we're in the Triangle area, and there are providers that are still giving. They're not following current protocols, but think about it. You, as a father, as a parent, bring your most prized possession to an individual for their advice, and their advice is categorically wrong.
Yeah.
And they, you know, if you do it, you got to do it. You got to have your mind open to where technology is proceeding. Now, let me be a flip contrarian here. Information is proceeding so fast that most people aren't keeping up with it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, providers kill more people than conditions due
Isn't
to
it number,
intellectual arrogance and fatigue.
isn't it number 2 medical malpractice, number 2 or 3?
You know what? And it's that, but it's go home and rest.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, somebody got to go. Okay, go hide in the dark. Okay, great. Well, perfect. That's been proven that that's not. And no, you should be taking exogenous ketones. You should be taking fish oils. You should be taking concussion 911. You should be taking all these things because it's going to help your brain to get into a better metabolic state. And again, when we talk with athletic, so we just had a big presentation, or did our presentation? We did presentations, but we were around superintendents. And superintendents' number one goal is not to get that kid back on the field. It's to get the kid back in class.
Yeah.
Because when that kid misses 2 weeks of school in high school, they're screwed.
Yeah, it goes fast. Yep.
It took 2 weeks, and we're in block training. So we get we have a fall semester and a spring semester. So you miss 2 weeks of school, you've missed 4 weeks of school. Your grades plummet.
We had a soccer player a year ago at my facility, and she was affected for 4 weeks. Like all the doctor said is, well, don't do anything that involves jumping or anything high impact. There was no treatment protocol. Right. It was just like, well, you just don't do stuff. Sit in dark rooms. I'm like, I look at the brain as something like can we proactively do that? Can we proactively make that happen? But no, I mean, they're still on that bed rest thing. We've even with muscle, with injuries, you want to move it. Like it used to be when I had my knee surgery back in the 90s. It was like, all right, rest up. Now they have you doing PT the next day.
Absolutely.
Still fresh, blood still shining.
Right. And I mean, the brain is you reduce the load on the brain, right? So let's reduce electronic time, but you still got to move the brain. To do nothing and hide in the dark. Well, real quick, back pain. Oh, back pain, go bed rest 3 days. Perfect. That'll extend your likelihood of pain. Perfect. Yeah. But that's still being given. Okay. Hello. Let's go back to brain. Brain is you support it nutritionally like crazy, right? Concussion 911, exogenous ketones, fish oils, vitamin D, you do that. Number one. Number two, you push the brain to tolerance. I don't want to give somebody an SAT test and give them a hangover, a mental hangover, but I want to push that brain to tolerance. I want light aerobic exercise. It might be fast walking for 5 minutes. So and everybody's on a different thing. Everybody is on a different continuum, depending on, is this number 2 or number 32 or number 300?
Yeah.
That's the art. The art is this has to be a parent driven event, top down. It's a bottom up. Providers laugh me out of the office and I give them 123 references. You just look and say, okay, you're giving that next family that brings their most cherished asset of that 8-year-old that just bumped heads. You're telling them, I don't want to say malpractice, but you're not giving them the best quality care that is out there while being safe, while being cost effective, which I want to cry and explode at the same time.
Is there any price on your brain? Like without the brain, like good luck on future earnings if your brain does. I'm not as professional as you. I will say a lot of what is done, and I'm going to speak for athletic training as well, is malpractice. But there are a lot of doctors who've gotten better, a lot of orthopedics who've gotten better. The guy who works with my kids, phenomenal, just a progressive, just great guy. So there's a lot of shining lights, but unfortunately, some people are left, no pun intended, in the dark.
So you kind of, what's your price of your brain? So let me give you something that came out of Finland this year. Finland has socialized medicine. Okay. Good or bad. But what that means is they're able to track people. If you, in the United States, you could have Cigna this year and United next year and blah, 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 blah. You can jump all over. Finland, you have socialized medicine. So they come out with a study this year saying if you get a head injury, it is an adolescent, you have a 15% less likelihood of going to college.
Wow.
What's the math on that?
Wow.
That is insane. But no, it's a 4 million people country. So it's not like an N of 10, right? And you say you're affecting this entire child's economic future if you don't treat this right. Don't feel any pressure.
that is wild. That is why it's, man, but we have so much. I mean, we should do a follow-up. Absolutely. I know you have a hard stop, and I do as well, but I really want to thank you. Number one, for what you do. You know, I think just you doing this is bringing to light some treatments that we can give to our children and ourselves that'll help our most valuable part of our body, our brain. And you're pioneering new grounds. And that's something, you know, as a parent, I thank you for that. And I also want to personally talk about Concussion 911, which is your product. You know, the formula is astounding. The quality control, what you guys do there, it's formulated with a purpose. It's formulated, you know, with results in mind. And it's not just, you know, a lot of supplements out there. If you go on like Amazon, a lot of them make no sense. They really don't do much. And, you know, obviously I kind of made my name in the industry by, you know, my supplements usually have a reason. Like it's going to do something for you, whether it's from an ergogenic standpoint or from a health standpoint. But a lot of people just come out with, you know, something. Oh, what's the keyword on Amazon? And they have TikToks about this. Guys like, here's how I made 30 million on Amazon. I saw the trending topic. I got the ingredient from China. It's like, no, that's to me, that's insulting. That is insulting when you just, oh, it's a trend. I think that the best products are made from a place of passion, a place of selfishness, because you want to use it yourself. And that's what you're bringing to the market, because you didn't have to do this. I'm guessing you're doing pretty well as a doctor, but I think that there's a sense of altruism in what you do. And again, I recommend every parent out there goes to, I believe it's still concussion911.com. It's straight to that.
Correct. So you have myconcussiondr.com and then concussion 911, and we're trying to get it quickly to Amazon and TikTok. So it's easily, I mean, they can order it right from our website. And Marc, again, I want to tennis back at you, because we had a heck of a time finding high quality exogenous ketones that would get through the blood-brain barrier. And you, kudos to you, because you provided that. Oh, we could get it, but it's dirty. And when we were doing samples on it, oh, that's always good to have mercury in there. Wait, we want extra mercury, don't we?
Who doesn't want mercury in their ketones?
We want exogenous polychlorinated biphenyls that are known cancer-causing agents, but they're cheaper. We can get them cheaper.
When you look at exogenous ketones, honestly, you know, Go BHB is the only one. Period. I mean, from the quality control to everything else, and it's going to be, mark my words on this, it's going to be the biggest ingredient, bigger than creatine, bigger than vitamin C, because it has so many applications. And this is just one of them. And again, it's awesome that you're using them. The world thanks you for that. But regardless, so your product, they can find it on concussion911.com. And what was the other one? My Brain Doctor?
My Brain DR. So
My Brain DR.
I'm sorry. My fault. My Concussion DR.
I have
another business, My Brain DR, but My Concussion DR.
And you also have a book they could buy too.
Correct. So we have a book on Amazon. I had it a second ago. Yeah. Concussion 911. So
yep. I got a copy.
And yep. So Concussion 911, if that's not moving around too much. But 123 references, and here's the great part about it. It's that big. So people says, we want to, you write a 350-page book. I said, why? I can say it in 60. If I can say it in 60 and get a layman, a mom, a dad, a smart person to understand 85% of it, great. That's I've accomplished my goal. And then they look and say, oh my gosh, your brain, knowing that this Finland study, their brain and their child's brain, the better it works, the better their life is going to be. I'm on several boards. One of them is Brain Injury Association in North Carolina. Great organization. But Marc, it's middle-aged people like you and I that slip in the garage. We hit our head. We're never right again. And we're now basically have to care for this individual. And I mean, it can affect anybody, athletes, but again, 11% are from athletes, 89%.
That is wild. That is
Yep.
wild. That stat is wild. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and on the main podcast, we're going to go ahead and link this. We're going to go ahead and link the book, link the site. So everything's
Yep.
there. And again, I encourage you guys to look at the site, support what he does, and for yourself, your children, it's a product you should definitely have and definitely use. And I want to thank you for coming on today, and hopefully we'll have you back on. And yeah, thank you so much, brother.
Hey, Mark, I got a question when we're done. So when you're done recording. Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.